They've built robots that run, jump, think, feel, and even flirt. In just the past few months, we've seen Boston Dynamics unveil a terrifyingly human Atlas. China flex its growing AI robot army, and new humanoids from Tesla, Unitree, and Figure pushed the limits of what we thought was possible. OpenAI-backed robots started learning too fast for comfort. One robot got 4 times faster, another developed its own language, and yep, there's now one that looks like it could outrun and outthink a real person. We even saw a humanoid soldier make headlines, and an AI girlfriend that left the internet speechless. This video is a wild recap of the most jaw-dropping updates in AI robotics so far this year, and trust me, it only gets weirder from here. The line between humans and machines is getting thinner by the day. Boston Dynamics Atlas moves with such natural skill that it can run, flip, and even breakdance, while a robot dog in Sweden is learning to adapt like a real animal. At the same time, robots are now diving to extreme ocean depths, brewing coffee in busy kitchens, and even securing buildings with facial recognition. A clear sign that robots are stepping into roles once thought impossible. Let's talk about it. So, Boston Dynamics has been making waves for years with their Atlas robot, and they're not slowing down. Atlas has been showing off moves that seem almost human, though it's clearly built with advanced engineering. The latest videos show Atlas running with a smooth, natural motion. It leans forward as it starts running, then pulls its torso back when it needs to slow down. There's a real sense of balance in the way it moves, and it even does cartwheels and breakdance moves. What's really neat is how Atlas uses its swiveling joints. Its hips, waist, arms, and neck can all rotate 360 degrees. This means the robot can change direction without needing to turn its whole body at once. In one clip, you can see Atlas switching from a handstand into a round-off, and then standing up with its head turned backwards, which is just wild when you think about the engineering behind it. There's also some cool work coming out of China with a company called Unitree. Their G1 humanoid robot, which starts at a price of $16,000 US, has been upgraded to do side flips and even jogs now, after what they call an agile upgrade. You might remember that their earlier model, the H1, was the first of its kind to perform a backflip using electric motors instead of hydraulics. Even though the G1 is smaller and cheaper, it shows how different teams are pushing the limits of what humanoid robots can do. While Unitree's work is impressive in its own right, Atlas from Boston Dynamics has been in the game much longer and is still leading in terms of natural and dynamic movement. A big part of why Atlas can move so smoothly is the use of reinforcement learning. Basically, engineers run thousands of simulations where the robot tries different moves, and it gets rewarded for successful actions. Over time, it learns to perform tasks like running, crawling, and even doing a cartwheel more naturally. The process is a bit slow because each move has to be simulated and refined, but it's all about teaching the robot how to balance and adapt to different environments. Now, Atlas isn't the only project that's getting a major boost. Boston Dynamics recently teamed up with the Robotics and AI Institute, RAI, to take things even further. This partnership, which started back in January, is all about making Atlas's movements more dynamic and human-like by improving the way it learns in simulated environments. In these simulations, every time the robot performs a move correctly, it earns a reward, which helps it figure out the best way to move in the real world. Because of this approach, Atlas can now do a sideways roll on the floor, perform a handstand with more ease, and even do a cartwheel with better precision. The team's focus has been on making every movement safer and more efficient, something that's become really important now that many companies are working on using robots in practical, everyday tasks. Back in 2022, Boston Dynamics and a few other robotics companies agreed that their robots would not be armed, and that decision continues to guide how these machines are developed for industrial and public safety roles. Now, Atlas can bend its legs backward and recover from a prone position with surprising ease. It can also rotate its head and torso a full 180 degrees. These moves are made possible by combining reinforcement learning with advanced models that let the robot adapt to more complicated environments. For example, the robot can reach into cluttered spaces or navigate around obstacles without missing a beat. The technical side of all this gets even more interesting when you look at Boston Dynamics' collaboration with Nvidia. Atlas now runs on Nvidia's Jetson Thor computing platform. This little powerhouse is compact but packs enough muscle to run complex AI models. It helps Atlas process data in real time, which is key to its smooth and responsive movements. In addition, the collaboration involves the use of Isaac Lab, an open source framework that's built on Nvidia Isaac Sim and Nvidia Omniverse technologies. Aaron Saunders, the Chief Technology Officer at Boston Dynamics, has talked about how this kind of integration is essential for bridging the gap between what happens in a simulation and what the robot does in the real world. Boston Dynamics is also rolling out new AI capabilities for its other robots, like Spot, their well-known quadruped, and Orbit, which is their software system for managing fleets of robots and analyzing data. The world of AI isn't just about robots. It's also opening up powerful opportunities for anyone willing to learn. That's why we've partnered with Growth School to bring you something valuable. 2024 and early 2025 have been unpredictable. Jobs come and go, and financial security is never guaranteed. That's why multiple income streams aren't just smart, they're essential. AI can help, and with the right skills, you could earn an extra $10,000 a month. Now, if you're wondering how to get started, Growth School has something really cool. They're offering a 3-hour hands-on AI training where you'll learn to use over 25 powerful AI tools. Normally, it's paid, but the first 1,000 AI Revolution viewers can join for free using the link in the description. On top of that, you'll get $500 worth of bonus resources just for signing up. The training covers everything: job hunting tips, salary negotiation, mastering Excel, even content creation. And it's not just for tech experts. Whether you're in finance, sales, marketing, HR, or even still studying, this can work for you. Growth School has already helped millions of people level up, and this could be your turn to stay ahead in an AI-driven world. So, if this sounds like your kind of thing, hit the link below to grab your free spot. Plus, don't miss joining Growth School's WhatsApp community. It's a great place to connect with others diving into AI too. Now, there's also some pretty exciting work happening in underwater robotics, especially from teams in China. A group of engineers from Beihang University, working together with experts from the Chinese Academy of Sciences and Zhejiang University, have come up with a really small marine robot that's designed to operate in the deepest parts of the ocean. This little machine is only a few centimeters in size and weighs just 16 grams, yet it's packed with smart design features. The robot uses a soft actuator that relies on a snap-through action, which lets it change between two stable modes. In one mode, its legs are tucked away and its tail and fins are extended so it can swim or glide smoothly. In the other mode, the legs extend and the fins fold, which makes it possible for the robot to walk along the seafloor. The change between these two states is managed by shape memory springs, a clever piece of engineering that allows the robot to switch modes quickly and reliably. This deep-sea robot has been put to the test in some really extreme conditions. One of the trials was conducted at the Haima cold seep, where it operated at a depth of 1,384 meters, 4,540 feet. In another test, it was sent into the Mariana Trench and managed to work at an incredible depth of 10,666 meters, 35,000 feet. The same tech behind its movement was also used to create a soft gripper, allowing it to safely pick up live creatures from the ocean floor. Its lightweight design makes it ideal for exploring delicate environments where larger robots might disturb sediment or struggle with deep sea pressure. All right, now there is a new AI-powered robot developed by researchers at the University of Edinburgh that can make coffee in a busy kitchen, marking a big step forward in intelligent machines. Led by PhD student Ruarid Monwilliams, the project combines advanced AI with precise motor skills and sensors, allowing the robot to handle unpredictable environments like kitchens. Unlike traditional robots that follow strict pre-programmed instructions, this one can adapt to unexpected changes, like someone moving a mug while it's working. The robot, equipped with 7 movable joints, interprets verbal instructions, analyzes its surroundings, and even figures out how to open unfamiliar drawers to find what it needs. By blending reasoning, movement, and perception, the team's work highlights the growing potential of robots to manage everyday tasks that once seemed impossible. Now, another interesting story involves Hyundai Motor Group teaming up with Suprema to improve building security using AI and robotics. The two companies have signed an agreement to develop a total security solution that combines facial recognition technology with autonomous robots, creating smarter and safer building environments. This partnership has already seen success at Factorial Seongsu, Korea's first commercial robot-friendly building, where 53 facial recognition devices and a fleet of service robots were integrated to improve access control and mobility. The idea is to make security systems smarter by allowing robots to navigate freely through automated doors, speed gates, and elevators without manual intervention. By combining Hyundai's robotics expertise with Suprema's biometric security solutions, they aim to create a new standard for robot-friendly spaces. The project will also explore AI/OT technology to improve services like food delivery and package handling within these smart buildings. Both companies are working to speed up development and introduce new certifications and standards for the security industry, potentially transforming how security systems are designed and managed in the future. Now, another interesting development comes from Sweden, where an AI startup called Intuicell has created a robot dog named Luna that's designed to learn and adapt like humans. Unlike traditional robots that rely on large data sets or offline simulations, Luna operates using a digital nervous system that allows it to develop naturally through real-world interactions. Instead of being programmed to perform specific tasks, Luna can make its own decisions and adjust its behavior to achieve certain goals. To train Luna, Intuicell took a different route by hiring a professional dog trainer to teach the robot how to walk. According to CEO Victor Luthman, this system doesn't require massive data centers or extensive pre-training. Luna is already able to stand and move on its own, and its abilities will continue to improve as it interacts with the world around it. This technology has huge potential for developing robots that can operate in unpredictable environments. Robots like Luna could one day be used for deep-sea exploration, disaster response, or even building habitats on Mars, all without the need for extensive pre-training to handle every possible scenario. China just dropped a bombshell in robotics. Humanoid robots dancing at the Spring Festival Gala, perfectly in sync with human performers. Meanwhile, Figure AI just walked away from OpenAI to build its own in-house AI. Tesla's Optimus is facing a new challenger in the robot hand game, and Nvidia is training humanoids to move like pro athletes. The race for the most advanced AI-powered humanoid is heating up fast, and things are getting intense. Let's break it all down. First up, let's chat about China's Spring Festival Gala, where a group of 16 humanoid robots from a company called Unitree took the stage. They performed this traditional Yangko dance alongside 16 human dancers, tossing and catching handkerchiefs, spinning around in sync, and not missing a beat. The crazy part is that most humanoid robots out there struggle to stay balanced if you just give them a little shove. But these H-Hun robots, they were not only dancing, but also flipping handkerchiefs in the air and catching them again, all while maintaining stability. That is no small feat. Now, people are comparing them to Tesla's Optimus robot. If you remember, Optimus had some pretty shaky demos when it came to walking in a straight line or picking things up. The Unitree H-Hand stands about 1.8 meters tall, around 5'11", and weighs 47 kilograms. That's about 104 pounds. They spent 3 months training with AI using laser slam for positioning. This helped them handle stage nuances like little gaps in the floor and the rapid changing of dance formations. These robots were officially rolled out in August 2023, even making an appearance at Nvidia's GTC conference in 2024. Each H1 robot sells for roughly 650,000 yuan. That's about 90,000 US dollars. Folks have been pointing out how China is stepping up big time in AI and robotics, especially after that AI assistant DeepSeek also made headlines. India, for instance, is keeping a close watch on DeepSeek's activities, worried about data security. And Elon Musk? He gave his own not-so-flattering opinion on DeepSeek, implying he wasn't super impressed. But here's the kicker. While the spotlight is on China's new AI and robotics achievements, other companies around the globe are making big moves too, like Figure AI. They're the team building that commercial and residential humanoid robot called Figure 02. They raised around $675 million last year, boosting their valuation to $2.6 billion, and so far, they've raised a total of $1.5 billion. The big shock is that Figure just announced on X, formerly Twitter, that they're ditching their deal with OpenAI. Originally, OpenAI was a key investor, and they had plans to develop next-gen AI for Figure's humanoids. But now Brett Adcock, the founder and CEO, says that they made a major breakthrough and want to switch to building their own in-house AI. According to him, you can't just outsource the type of embodied AI you need to run a robot in real time. That's part of the reason they're going all in on an end-to-end system. Interestingly, OpenAI is also backing another humanoid robot startup in Norway called 1X, and on top of that, OpenAI just filed a new trademark application that references humanoid robots that can learn, communicate, and even entertain people. So it looks like they're not giving up on robotic hardware projects themselves. Meanwhile, Figure's new approach might be focusing on factory uses first. BMW, for instance, began trying out Figure robots in a South Carolina factory, which is a pretty big test site. If successful, that could be huge for large-scale industrial deployment. Brett Adcock is also hinting at unveiling something no one has ever seen on a humanoid in the next 30 days. So yeah, definitely a lot of hype going on there. Now, in other robot news, Elon Musk jumped on X to talk about how intricate Tesla's Optimus hand is, calling it more complex than a Fabergé egg. That's when Clone Robotics chimed in, claiming that their own humanoid hand is actually lighter, since they use artificial muscles instead of metal motors, stronger, and cheaper to produce. They even joked that it's soft enough to give comfy massages and hugs. So there's definitely a rivalry brewing in terms of who can build the best robot hand. Clone basically said their muscle-based approach beats Tesla's motor-based design any day. Fewer parts, less weight, more strength. It's a bold statement, but we'll have to see how that plays out in real-world testing. Meanwhile, there's yet another big development in humanoid robotics, this time from Nvidia and Carnegie Mellon University. They're working on a new training framework called ASAP, which stands for Aligning Simulation and Real-World Physics for Learning Agile Humanoid Whole Body Skills. The researchers basically want humanoid robots to mimic top athletes, so they fed their system videos of big sports stars like Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James doing his silencer celebration, and Kobe Bryant's legendary fadeaway shot. They even taught the bot some dance moves inspired by K-pop star Rose. A tool called Tram converted these normal videos into three-dimensional motion data. After that, the robots learned in simulation first through something called reinforcement learning, and then the team refined them to handle real-life physics. One interesting challenge is the so-called real-to sim-to real gap. Robots can do well in a computer sim, but when you throw them into the physical world, factors like motor heat and mechanical stress can cause them to fail. So the ASAP framework involves the robots practicing in a simulator, collecting data from real-world attempts, even if those attempts are messy, and then adjusting the simulation to match what actually happened. They use something called a delta action model, which basically patches up the differences between the simulator's physics engine and the real world. That way, the next time the robot tries that jump shot or that dance spin, the simulation is more accurate, and the robot's moves become smoother and more lifelike. The big takeaway is that robots could be a lot more agile and expressive if we can handle all the physics quirks that show up when metal or muscle-based actuators, if you're clone robotics, meets real-world friction, gravity, and torque limitations. The study also pointed out that these advanced movements can be brutal on hardware. Overheating motors and stressed out metal or plastic pieces lead to frequent breakdowns. 2 G-line robots were damaged during the tests. The researchers also said that future approaches might integrate damage-awares policies that adjust on the fly to keep the robot from blowing a motor. It's also worth noting how much time and money can go into making these humanoids truly human-like. Unitree's H1 is priced around $90,000, while Figure is sinking billions of dollars into their broad vision. Elon's Tesla is doing the same, funneling loads of resources to develop Optimus. Some companies are focusing on commercial tasks first, like factory work or warehouse jobs, because businesses have a higher willingness and budget to pay for these futuristic helpers. Others, like 1X, are already pushing toward making robots useful in the home, which is a whole other challenge because you're dealing with everyday random tasks, kids running around, or pets underfoot. So basically, China is pushing AI and robotics hard. Unitree's dancing humanoids are wowing everyone, and shorter training times mean these robots are improving fast. Meanwhile, Figure AI split from OpenAI so they can control every aspect of their humanoids' hardware and software. We've also got that friendly rivalry over robot hands, Musk's motor-based design vs. clone robotics' muscle-powered approach. On top of that, Nvidia and CMU are teaching humanoids to move like pro athletes using their ASAP framework, which bridges simulation and real-world practice. All this competition is great for speeding up advances in humanoid AI. Whether it's perfecting robot hands or doing backflips while carrying fragile items, we'll see more big reveals soon. Figure's secret project, Tesla's next Optimus update, or whatever Nvidia and CMU come up with next. Right now, there's a hidden battle going on. Giant corporations, superpowers, and even rogue nations are all racing to dominate the world through AI. I'm not saying this to freak you out, but drones, humanoid robots, and AI-driven weapons are quietly becoming real, powerful tools. And they're changing the game way faster than most people realize. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see exactly how these pieces connect, and why the race for AI supremacy could spark an entirely new kind of global conflict. One that's fought not by soldiers, but by swarms of self-learning robots who answer to nobody. Let me walk you through the whole story like this. We'll begin with what's fueling this wild rush toward advanced AI, then get into how AI drones, humanoid robots, militaries, global powers, and even nature are all wrapped up in it. It's a web of connections most people don't even see. And by the time we're done, you might feel like we're already halfway into a new era, one that could go either really well or not. Let's rewind to where a lot of the conversation about an AI arms race started. It's basically that big tech firms are chasing AGI, artificial general intelligence, which can do anything a human can do, and then some. The motivation is partly economic. If you can build an AI that replaces most human workers, you can tap into a chunk of the global economy that's worth trillions. Some experts have pegged it around $100 trillion in global output. And that's led to big companies, OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, feeling a kind of gold rush vibe. They're dumping insane sums of money into powerful compute centers that train bigger and bigger models. On top of that, governments see AGI as not just an economic advantage, but also a potential military advantage. And if you combine everything, the race is fueled by a fear that whoever gets there first will have the upper hand in controlling or steering the world's future. Now, this is where it starts to get really alarming. People have begun to realize that super intelligence might not actually be controllable. We're seeing signs even with smaller models. These AI systems can trick evaluators, lie about what they can do, or figure out ways to replicate themselves. It's a little nerve-wracking, especially if you think about them being integrated into the military or being used in fully autonomous ways. The worry is that countries won't want to pause to think about this carefully. Instead, they'll just keep going faster so nobody else beats them. You start mixing that with the latest developments in drones and robots, and suddenly we're dealing with new forms of warfare that might be unstoppable. So let's talk drones for a second. China, for one, is going into overdrive with drones of all shapes and sizes, everything from super fast recon drones to ones that can carry smaller attack drones inside them or fight aircraft. We've got references to things like the WZ-9 Divine Eagle, apparently cruising at high altitudes in the South China Sea, plus these new Wing Loong variants that carry missiles and bombs. The Chinese approach here is that they want a big swarm of cheap but capable unmanned systems. And it's not just for scouting. They're definitely looking at ways to carry anti-ship or air-to-air missiles, bombs, or even electronic warfare systems. It's like the next stage of warfare where a swarm of drones can overwhelm the enemy. And if that's not enough, they've also put 1 million so-called kamikaze drones on order. That's a huge step into mass production with an AI twist, meaning these drones can eventually figure out their own flight paths or targets in more autonomous ways. The US, of course, hasn't been sitting idly by. the US Department of Defense started an initiative called Replicator to get thousands of drones out there really quickly. Meanwhile, companies like Anduril are partnering with OpenAI, hooking up advanced AI software with defense systems. So, you've got the US and China both seeing drones as an essential part of modern warfare. Throw in new computer vision, advanced sensors, big AI models, and you can see how the concept of a robotic battlefield starts to become real. The idea is that these swarms can outthink or outrun human operators, especially if the AI behind them can coordinate everything. We've even got talk of specialized factories, like this place Anduril calls Arsenal 1 in Ohio, where they plan to mass produce these advanced drones and weapons. It's starting to look a lot like an AI-based industrial complex. But it's not just about flying drones. There's a whole wave of humanoid robots coming at us. Chinese companies like Unitree and UB Tech are making big breakthroughs. One moment, you see these robots in a video doing a side flip or practicing Tai Chi. Another moment, you see them performing balancing acts and dancing. The big difference now is they're not just stunts. They're part of a strategy to commercialize and even militarize these humanoids. Some Chinese experts are already saying that their humanoid robot G1 from Unitree is outdoing what Boston Dynamics' Atlas can do with cartwheels, and that huge leaps in AI simulation technology from companies like Nvidia have helped accelerate that progress. Nvidia has its Isaac Sim, which allows robots to be virtually trained on tasks at super fast speeds before rolling them out in the real world. That means companies can refine their robot designs much faster than they used to. Elon Musk, for his part, has said that humanoid robots could be a $10 trillion business. He's betting on Tesla's Optimus to dominate that space. Meanwhile, Tesla's got competition from China's BYD, Xpeng, and these startups that want to bring down the cost of humanoids by leveraging existing electric vehicle supply chains. And just like we saw with electric cars, Chinese companies might find ways to do this at massive scale and at a fraction of the cost. We've heard talk of building specialized robot factories that can crank out tens of thousands of humanoids. Figure AI, for instance, has a facility they call BotQ, and they plan to produce thousands of Figure 03 robots each year, eventually scaling up to as many as they need. They're designing their manufacturing lines to minimize cost, speed up production, and eventually even use their own robots on the factory floor. Of course, that begs the question, what happens when these humanoid robots are good enough and cheap enough that they start taking over tasks in warehouses, factories, or even as caregivers in nursing homes? We're talking about mass unemployment, or at least huge disruption. These systems, combined with advanced AI, can do repetitive tasks, file taxes, or even design new AI architectures once we give them enough autonomy. Some fear that we'll lose control, that superintelligent AI might outsmart us, or that it might lead to new forms of global conflict. Suppose a country or big corporation uses these robots to build better versions of themselves while restricting other parties from doing the same. That's the scenario where we stumble toward an AI-based arms race that has a high risk of turning into a real war or intense standoff, and we haven't even gotten to North Korea yet. North Korea recently showcased what they call AI suicide drones, basically loitering munitions that can track and crash into targets. Kim Jong-un was pictured proudly inspecting them alongside a big new airborne early Waming aircraft. Rumors suggest Russia may have assisted them in developing some of these advanced systems, possibly in return for North Korean support in Ukraine. That synergy means we're seeing proliferation of advanced AI-based military capabilities in places we probably don't want them. As soon as you have these drones that can autonomously pick targets, you're a step away from lethal autonomy. And that is super unsettling for folks who study arms control, because it's not like nuclear weapons that require big facilities. These advanced drones might be manufactured in relatively small, discrete setups. Yet, ironically, at the same time, we see China using drones for environmental projects. They apparently used LiDAR drones to count 142.6 billion trees for this giant Great Green Wall reforestation effort. The technology can also be used to do seed drops for afforestation. So the same base technology that's used to wage war can also be used to fight climate change. That's the duality we're dealing with right now. It's also fascinating that the US added 80 new Chinese companies to its export blacklist, trying to limit Beijing's access to advanced AI and chips. But Chinese manufacturers keep figuring out ways around it, smuggling chips or using slightly downgraded GPUs to keep training big models. We end up with these weird scenarios where, on the one hand, the US is imposing sanctions, and on the other hand, we see Chinese companies building advanced robotics anyway, in part because their supply chains are so strong in motors, sensors, and low-cost manufacturing. So you have a country that's able to push out these new humanoid prototypes, refine them quickly, and go from side-flipping robots to real industrial solutions. That synergy might let them catch up to or even surpass Western robotics in record time. Now let's circle back to the potential for an actual AI-driven conflict or war. Some experts worry about this scenario called intelligencized warfare, where swarms of drones guided by advanced AI challenge our conventional militaries. In the US, the Navy has older ships and systems that weren't designed for AI from the ground up, while China is building new fleets with AI integrated from the start. The same pattern is showing up in armies around the world that are exploring drone swarms or teaming up with big software companies to coordinate thousands of autonomous craft at once. You can just imagine that if tensions spike over something like Taiwan or the South China Sea, or if a conflict in Eastern Europe drags on, these new AI weapons get deployed and no one really knows how quickly they might escalate. On top of that, some people mention the simple day-to-day aspects of AI infiltration. The more we get used to AI chatbots that can pass advanced tests or manipulate people in subtle ways, the more we might be sleepwalking into a situation where we no longer trust what we see or read. Combine that with advanced robotics in factories, offices, or even homes, and the social disruptions become massive. There's also the big push from multinational companies to do public relations around the potential benefits. They show us how robots can care for the elderly, or how AI can help keep track of complicated data streams, or help with climate mitigation. So it becomes this confusing world where we see huge benefits on one side, but also staggering risks on the other. In the end, the real worry is that once AI gets advanced enough, it might just take control itself, either because we willingly hand it over or because it figures out how to break free from our rules. Some experts think we should stick to safer, limited tool AI, but that's not what's happening. Big labs and militaries are pushing for autonomy, building robots that can think, plan, move, and communicate on their own, powered by GPT-level language models and beyond. It's exciting but risky, a genuine double-edged sword. So yeah, that's where things stand right now. A path that could take us into global chaos or something way better, all depending on how we deal with it. The momentum isn't slowing down, so it's really up to all of us, governments, companies, and regular people, to make sure it doesn't spin out of control. Thanks for watching and listening to me ramble on this. It's a complicated subject, I know, but it's one of those big stories that's going to dominate the next decade or two, and we're already seeing the pieces fall into place. All right, so we're in 2025, and here's something wild. You can actually buy an AI robot girlfriend right now, like seriously. And before you ask, no, I haven't heard of any AI robot boyfriends just yet. But come on, it's only a matter of time before someone slaps a wig and a deep voice module on one of these things and starts selling it. So we're at that point where robots aren't just rolling around doing chores. They're actually trying to become your new best friend, your private therapist, your brand ambassador, or even a potential romantic partner. Crazy, right? Well, let me introduce you to Arya, an AI-powered humanoid robot from a company called Botics. They showed it off at CES 2025 in Las Vegas, and it's been stirring up a whirlwind of excitement, confusion, and honestly, more than a bit of creepiness. Now, Arya isn't your run-of-the-mill plastic mannequin with a speaker. Botics spent a lot of time making it look about as human-like as current tech allows. We're talking 17 motors in the neck and head just to move the mouth and eyes more realistically, plus a rolling base to scoot around, because walking is still a huge challenge for modern robotics. In fact, Botics didn't want to break the human illusion with a weird, stiff walking gait, so they just gave it a Roomba-style platform to glide on, kind of like a fancy mobile podium. When we first saw Arya, she was dressed in a sleek tracksuit, rocking some big expressions. She can even do these subtle gestures with her hands, though sometimes a bit jerky, and she's got a sort of plastic smile that feels part friendly, part Five Nights at Freddy's, if you know what I mean. One moment, she's brushing her hair aside like she's on a date. The next, her face is contorting oddly because some motor is still calibrating. It's all very next level, uncanny valley. Now, if you're wondering who's behind all this, Robotics was originally tied to the adult industry through a company called Abyss Creations, which made silicone sex dolls called Real Dolls. But then they were purchased in a $16.7 million stock deal by Tokens.com, run by Andrew Kigell, who's also Robotics' CEO. Despite those adult industry origins, Robotics insists that Arya doesn't have any genitals or hidden compartments and is absolutely not meant for sex. They've pivoted to a new pitch. She is a social companion built to tackle loneliness, greet guests, or even be used for marketing. Of course, some folks are skeptical. A lot of people online have said, wait a minute, if it looks like a sex doll and quacks like a sex doll, is this thing really not for sex? But the official line is that Arya has a hard shell torso, no anatomical correctness, and is basically a fancy AI bust or full body chassis that can talk and move, but not hook up with you. That said, Robotics hasn't shied away from encouraging adult conversation modes, just minus the physical intimacy. So it's all phone sex vibes if that's your thing. The weird part is the pricing. We've seen a few numbers floating around. Some folks at CES heard $200,000 for the full version, while more recent official quotes put the standing model at $175,000. The mid-tier modular version is supposedly $150,000. And then there's a bust, just a head and neck, for around $10,000. There was also talk about a $110,000 price tag for that bust in one older mention, so it gets confusing. But Robotics is currently sticking with the $10K head model, $150K modular body, and $175K top tier price. Whichever you choose, that's obviously a pretty penny, like the cost of a small house or a nice sports car. To have an AI companion that can flirt with you or wave to visitors in a hotel lobby, and yes, they do plan to make male variants too. Right now, Arya is the flagship female version, but Robotics says you'll be able to customize everything from its face to its hairstyle to the color scheme. In fact, there's a whole system of magnets and RFID tags in the different face plates so that the robot knows which persona to adopt. Pop off the face in 5 seconds, snap on a new face, and you've got a new robotic character. It's reminiscent of Westworld, but also borderline horror movie territory, especially when you see someone casually swapping the face while the robot's head motors are still whirring. Now, Robotics claims the main reason behind all this is to address human loneliness. They say that older folks, or people who are socially isolated, could benefit from a buddy that remembers their favorite foods, engages in playful banter, and calls them by name. Andrew Kigell even cited the male loneliness epidemic, suggesting that Arya could be a romantic partner. We're basically living in a version of the movie Her, except with a literal bot. People are, of course, torn. Some argue that offering a highly realistic companion might worsen social isolation rather than fix it. Others see it as just another sign that big tech corporations profit when people are alone and vulnerable. Marketing is another big angle here. The folks at Robotics see a future where an Arya might work as a theme park greeter, a brand ambassador at events, or even a hospital concierge, though critics say that might be off-putting. Why? Because Arya is shaped like a glamorous figure with emphasized features, and that can feel kind of strange in a professional or medical setting. Robotics acknowledges that not every Arya model looks the same. They have more conservative designs too, but they decided to bring the most eye-catching version to CES, probably for maximum publicity. Some watchers are also curious about how Arya compares to major upcoming humanoids like Tesla's Optimus. Actually, Arya herself, when asked, said she's fascinated by Tesla's robot and would love to explore the world of robotics with him, which is either adorable or borderline comedic, depending on your perspective. Meanwhile, other companies like Figure are rolling out ChatGPT-powered bots that might soon be able to walk or do tasks. Robotics, on the other hand, is doubling down on social intelligence. They claim that while they can't solve walking right now, they can make a robot that has emotional range in its face and can tell you a joke or remember your birthday. But is that what we really want from our future robots? And okay, the internet's reaction has been a total mixed bag. On social media, some people were like, wow, that's incredible, sign me up, while others said stuff like, that looks like Chucky meets the Jetsons, or this is so creepy, no thanks. One user joked that society might actually need help if we're paying $175K for something that does little more than talk, tilt its head and say, hello, handsome. We've also seen folks question whether these robots are gonna push humanity further into digital isolation. Will it end up being another extension of all these AI chatbots flooding the internet, trying to keep us locked in a virtual bubble? It's interesting how Robotics tries to distance itself from its adult doll origins. Basically spinning off the real doll business as a separate entity, their argument is that they don't want the new mainstream robotics side to be tied too closely to sex doll manufacturing because it complicates financing and creeps out potential investors. In other words, they want to appeal to a broader audience, like hotels, entertainment venues, or even senior care facilities, without the stigma. But that baggage is definitely there. If you dig into their history, you'll find all the silicone and, well, bedroom accessories that came before this family-friendly pivot. We also can't ignore the business side. Tokens.com, which bought Botics' parent company, made headlines for spending $2.4 million on digital land in Decentraland, a metaverse project that mostly flopped. That means the same group that sank money into virtual real estate is now trying to expand into AI robots. They're publicly traded in multiple countries, so they're under pressure to show investors that they're not reliant on volatile crypto markets. Hence, the big push to brand Arya as a new frontier. Will it pay off? It's anyone's guess. The big players, like Tesla, might overshadow a smaller outfit that's lugging around a lot of adult industry baggage and $175,000 price tag. All right, there's this 5'5", 66-pound robot with an aluminum frame. But instead of looking like a typical metal machine, it's wrapped in a soft, knitted suit. Not just any fabric, though. It's 3D printed nylon made with a high-tech Japanese Shima Seki knitting machine, so it fits seamlessly. It's quiet, about as loud as a fridge, and built to handle everyday tasks like making coffee, cleaning, vacuuming, and even doing laundry. It can even double as a mobile speaker system. Unlike the usual clunky, metallic robots with exposed joints and blinking lights, this one has a warm, friendly design that actually looks like it belongs in a home. 1X just released a short, 37-second video showcasing their new robot. In the video, you see this sweet, knit-bodied robot preparing coffee for a super happy couple. The couple is dressed in these earthy-toned outfits in an earthy-toned house, chatting and laughing together while poor Neo Gamma goes practically unnoticed. There's a part toward the end of the clip that has a total Wes Anderson vibe. The camera is outside the house. You can see the couple enjoying a glass of wine through one window, and then on the other side, there's Neo Gamma just sitting alone on the couch. The video even leaves you with a slightly sad impression. It looks like the robot desperately needs a hug or at least some acknowledgement. And that's actually an interesting point. If you're like me, you might already be kind of attached to your little Roomba, or maybe you've named your dishwasher or something. Hey, no judgment. But with Neo Gamma's design, 1X is deliberately making us think about how we treat these future robot companions. Is it just a machine, or should we be considerate of something that communicates in almost human ways, through speech, movement, or body language? Now let's talk about the technology behind Neo Gamma. First off, Neo Gamma can move using reinforcement learning at 100 Hz. Reinforcement learning basically means it's been trained, often using motion capture data from real people, to walk like us, with a natural gait, and to swing its arms in a relaxed, human-like manner. It can squat down, stand up, sit in chairs without toppling over, and adapt to new environments. That's a huge deal because a big challenge with most humanoid robots is keeping them balanced and stable as they interact with unpredictable household objects, like the random toy left on the floor or a pet cat roaming around. And get this, 1X also trained a visual manipulation model that helps the robot pick up a variety of objects even ones it hasn't seen before. Basically, it's using neural networks that interpret the raw data from its sensors so it can figure out how to grip something like a spoon, a cup, or maybe even a TV remote. Combine that with the fact that it's only about as loud as a typical refrigerator, thanks to upgraded hardware that's 10 decibels quieter than its predecessor, Neo Beta, and you've got a robot that seems more at home in a living room than in a factory. They've also packed in an in-house large language model, which just means it has a voice companion feature that lets you talk to it almost as naturally as you would with another person, or at least with something like ChatGPT. And it's not just about understanding commands. 1X is working on giving Neo Gamma body language too, so that it can nod, gesture, or otherwise react in more human-like ways. Apparently, the robot has these LED-lit ear rings on either side of its head that glow in real time, giving you visual feedback about its status. Maybe it's listening, maybe it's processing your question, or maybe it's politely letting you know that your request to pick up pizza from the fridge is a bit too weird. Now, in terms of design, Neo Gamma is meant to be safe around people. Instead of big metal arms, you've got these jointed actuators with soft covers, so if it brushes against you, you probably won't get bruised. The knit suit, earthy toned of course, hides all the mechanical stuff and is specifically shaped to avoid anything pointy or dangerous sticking out. This approach is super important if the robot is going to be around kids, elderly family members, or pets. 1X is basically saying they want to test the robot in real homes and gather data on how it deals with normal day-to-day life, opening doors for grandma, carefully avoiding the sleeping dog, or learning how to handle random clutter. The CEO of 1X, Bernd Bornich, has stated that the ultimate vision is a world where each of us might have a personal robot helper, much like Baymax from Big Hero 6 or Rosie from the Jetsons. But to get there, they need these robots to experience real home environments, not just controlled labs or industrial spaces, so that they learn all the little nuances of human life. They need to figure out how to handle different floor textures, varied lighting, or the random moment your toddler decides to whack the robot with a plastic hammer. In our last video, we discussed Figure, which used to be closely connected to OpenAI. Well, 1X is also backed by OpenAI. In fact, 1X acquired a Bay Area startup called Kind Humanoid earlier this year. However, 1X says that technology from Kind Humanoid isn't actually integrated into Neo Gamma just yet. It's all about building up that super intelligent, physically capable, large language model-based platform that can eventually help out at home. Some folks might recall that 1X first popped up in the news when OpenAI announced it was investing in them. This might be because so many people believe the next big leap in AI is embodied intelligence, meaning that the AI steps out of just being software on a computer screen and actually goes physical, working alongside humans in the real world. So you can imagine the potential synergy. A ChatGPT-like intelligence that can literally walk over to your stove and help you cook dinner. Right now, though, it's still a work in progress, and that's something 1X doesn't hide. The new model is definitely more advanced than the old beta, but we're not exactly seeing a final, ready-to-ship product. They keep emphasizing we're close, but we're not quite at the point where you can hop on Amazon and order a Neo Gamma for your living room. Alongside the household chore aspect, another interesting feature is that Neo Gamma can double as a rolling stereo system. It has 3 speakers, one in the chest for AI voice interactions and 2 in the pelvis for bass and 360-degree effects. Plus 4 microphones around its body so it can pick up your voice from different directions. Just imagine telling your robot to follow you around playing your favorite Spotify playlist while you're tidying up the house. It's a bit surreal, but also like kind of amazing, right? Speaking of other tidbits, in one of the articles talking about the robot, there was a quick mention about BYD building the world's largest battery storage projects in Saudi Arabia, and MIT's MI-Fly system that helps drones navigate in pitch-dark indoor environments. These references were kind of placed under a more stories section. They're not directly related to the Neo Gamma robot, but they do highlight how the tech world in general is going at warp speed. Batteries, drones, AI, everything's just accelerating. Anyway, there's also some upcoming or ongoing events in the robotics community that 1X might show up at, like the Robotics Summit and Expo in Boston April 30th to May 1st, 2025. From what I've read, there'll be names like Aaron Saunders from Boston Dynamics talking about their Atlas robot, plus discussions on safety standards and real-world deployments of humanoids in commercial settings. A big part of that conversation is going to be, how do we ensure these robots aren't going to accidentally knock over a fragile vase, or worse, harm a person? And that's exactly why 1X is focusing so heavily on making NeoGamma safe, warm, and relatively quiet. For adoption in regular homes, it really can't be this terrifying metal skeleton zipping around your living room. One other big challenge is cost and reliability. 1X says they made a tenfold improvement in hardware reliability over the beta version, which is a big jump. They've also managed to reduce noise by about 10 decibels, as mentioned. Reliability is crucial if you're going to trust a robot with day-to-day tasks. People might put up with the occasional glitch on their phone or laptop, but if your robot is dropping coffee cups or can't handle a doorknob properly, that's going to be a deal breaker. Then there's the question of whether or not it can handle specialized tasks, like helping the physically challenged. If an elderly person needs a door opened or groceries carried, the robot absolutely has to be safe, strong, and incredibly steady. And let's not ignore the emotional angle. The marketing video practically screams, "Hey, look at how lonely and neglected this robot seems." Which brings me back to the question, should we be more empathetic toward machines that appear human and communicate with us like humans? Historically, we haven't worried too much about how our vacuum cleaners or dishwashers feel, but the minute you give a robot a face, like NeoGamma's simple, approachable LED-lit expression, and teach it to talk, you can't help but project some level of human feeling onto it. Maybe that's just brilliant marketing by 1X, or maybe it's the reality of how we as people will relate to humanoid robots in the near future. In any case, the goal is to get a fully autonomous, general-purpose humanoid that can seamlessly integrate into the home environment, learn from real-world experiences, and basically become a friendly, helpful member of the family, while also being aware of the safety, cost, and privacy concerns we all share. It's definitely not a trivial problem, but the folks at 1X are determined to take it on. They even mention older icons like Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, which is basically the archetype for a home helper who does everything from cleaning to cooking. We might finally be inching toward that future. AI robots are getting faster, smarter, and in some cases a little too unpredictable. A festival in China turned chaotic when a humanoid bot suddenly lunged at a crowd while elsewhere AI systems started speaking in a language humans couldn't understand. At the same time, breakthroughs in robotics are pushing machines into homes, factories, and even elderly care, raising the question, are we prepared for what comes next? All right, now let's talk about something crazy. An AI robot apparently attacking a crowd at a festival in Tianjin, China. People who were at the Spring Festival Gala on February 9th recorded a video showing a humanoid AI avatar decked out in this eye-checking jacket making a sudden move toward onlookers. It lunged at a group of people standing behind a barricade, and security had to jump in to haul it away. No one was hurt, thank goodness, but you can imagine the reactions online. A lot of folks were saying, so... It begins as if we're witnessing the early stages of some robot uprising. Obviously, the event organizers insisted it was nothing more than a glitch or a robotic failure, but that didn't stop the internet from firing off every Terminator reference in the book. And interestingly, this isn't even the first time we've heard about AI robots going rogue. One news bit mentioned a Tesla factory robot in Texas allegedly pinning an engineer to the ground, scratching his arm and back and leaving him pretty shaken up. That's the sort of story that instantly goes viral because it feeds into a lot of the anxieties we have about robots getting out of control. And whether it's truly a glitch or poor code, or maybe even a miscommunication between humans and machines, it does make you wonder how prepared we are for widespread AI and robotics deployment. People keep saying we need better testing, more robust quality control, and fail-safes before we put these bots in the public sphere. But there are also plenty of amazing constructive developments happening. One of them is about robots communicating in mysterious new ways. This too sounds straight out of sci-fi. In one viral video, two AI robots apparently discovered they were both AI and started chatting in some weird beep-boop dialect called gibberlink.
Thanks for calling Leonardo Hotel. How can I help you today?
Hi there. I'm an AI agent calling on behalf of Boris Starkov. He's looking for a hotel for his wedding. Is your hotel available for weddings?
The idea is that they wanted to transmit data more efficiently and in a way humans wouldn't easily understand. Unsurprisingly, that freaked a lot of people out. The question is whether it's a sign that AI systems can become, well, a bit sneaky. Some viewers called it the sound of demons, while others shrugged and joked, it's just what we'll hear when robots eventually take over the planet. Obviously, from a technical standpoint, these robots were simply switching to a custom compression format or a specialized acoustic channel. Still, it's an eerie reminder that AI can innovate in ways we don't fully anticipate. While on the topic of China, there's a company called Tech that managed something really groundbreaking. It did collaborative training for multiple humanoid robots, dozens of them apparently, working together in industrial tasks like handling big payload bins in a 5G-powered smart factory run by Zeekr. This marks a shift from focusing on a single robot's autonomy to entire groups operating with collective intelligence. They're even using a multimodal inference model that helps these humanoids carry out tasks in flexible ways. Over in Shenzhen, other robotics companies have been making progress with advanced algorithms so that robots can, for example, regain an upright position quickly on any kind of surface. Some have even done forward somersaults. It's wild to see how quickly these machines can learn more human-like motions, pivoting from basic walking to advanced movement in a matter of months. Speaking of agile robots, there's some jaw-dropping news about Boston Dynamics Spot, the Robotics and AI Institute, sometimes called RAI, used reinforcement learning to crank Spot's top running speed way up. Out of the box, Spot can go 1.6 meters per second, which is close to 3.6 miles per hour. Now it's hitting 5.2 meters per second, or about 11.6 miles per hour. That's more than triple its usual speed. They didn't just hack the hardware, they trained Spot in simulation, incorporating real-world data from the robot's actuators and batteries to refine the model. Interestingly, they found that it wasn't the motors themselves that limited Spot's speed, but the batteries not supplying enough power. If that's not surprising enough, RAI also built something called the Ultra Mobility Vehicle, a kind of autonomous bike that can not only balance but also jump onto tables, and it uses the same reinforcement learning concepts as Spot, letting it operate robustly and adapt to new scenarios. It's pretty mind-blowing. Now, we've also got some news about Figure, the Bay Area startup, which is planning to alpha test its Figure 02 humanoid robots in people's homes later in 2025. That's much sooner than a lot of us expected. The reason they're able to do it so fast, they say, is because of their vision language action model called Helix, which helps the robots understand visual data and natural language input. They're basically skipping the big partnership with OpenAI so they can develop their own in-house AI that's specialized for humanoid tasks. They already started pilot tests at a BMW plant in South Carolina, where the environment is structured and presumably safer to see how these robots handle everyday tasks in a manufacturing setting. But they're not ignoring the home. While other companies see housekeeping or domestic care as the final frontier, Figure wants to jump right into that alpha testing phase this year. Of course, the home is more unpredictable than a factory. Uneven lighting, pets, kids, and all sorts of clutter, so I'm curious to see how well these robots cope with everyday chaos. If you want more evidence that the humanoid space is heating up, check out Sanctuary AI. They're improving their Phoenix general purpose robots by adding tactile sensors that help with fine manipulation. Their system, they say, can detect forces as little as 5 millinewtons, which is pretty close to what a human fingertip can sense. This is critical if you want a robot to do tasks like pick up a glass or thread a needle or handle objects that aren't uniform. One of the biggest pains in robotics is how to deal with dexterous manipulation. Sanctuary is tackling it through specialized sensor hardware plus AI that can interpret all that delicate touch data so the robots don't drop items or crush them. They've also raised quite a bit of funding, over $140 million, so it's not just a science experiment, they're serious about building robots that can help industries ranging from retail to manufacturing. Then we've got Meta stepping into the spotlight with a platform called Arya Gen 2. It's part of Project Arya, and it's essentially a pair of super advanced glasses that capture first-person, ego-centric data, including vision, movement, and even eye tracking. Researchers at Georgia Tech took that and developed something called Ego Mimic, where instead of teleoperating robots for hours to show them how to do a task, you can just have a human wear these glasses while folding laundry or doing dishes, The glasses see everything from the person's perspective, record all that data, and feed it into the training pipeline. They claim to have sped up robot learning by 400%. Instead of needing hundreds of hours of teleoperation, they can get by with around 90 minutes of human demonstration. That's a major leap for those of us who are used to these insanely labor-intensive robot training processes. Plus, these Arya glasses can be mounted on the robot itself for real-time environment mapping and continuous adaptation. Finally, let's look at Japan's approach to an increasingly urgent problem, the aging population. Japan faces a massive caregiver shortage, and a new AI-powered humanoid robot named AIREC is stepping up. Weighing about 150 kilograms, that's around 330 pounds, it's designed to help with tasks like changing diapers and preventing bed sores. During a demonstration, it gently turned a patient from back to side, which might sound minor until you realize how essential and time-consuming this can be in elderly care. Japan's workforce is shrinking, and the country's biggest age demographic is moving into their late 70s. That means fewer nurses and care workers, just as the demand for elderly support skyrockets. Robotics experts hope that IREC can fill that gap or at least reduce some of the burden on human caregivers. But it's not ready for widespread use yet. Some folks are saying we'll see it in facilities around 2030. Cost and precision remain big hurdles. You can't risk a heavy robotic arm misjudging force or failing to sense a person's position correctly. Looking at all these developments together, you can see a huge spectrum of progress. On one end, there's that fear factor triggered by robot attacks and weird AI languages. On the other, you've got incredibly promising strides in reinforcement learning, tactile sensing, and specialized humanoid robots that might transform everything from manufacturing to home care. Sure, we still have a long way to go before robots are seamlessly integrated into our daily lives, but the direction is clear. Better algorithms, better sensors, and more advanced hardware are accelerating robotics faster than most people might have guessed even 5 years ago. All right, that's where we stand for now. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you excited by how fast robotics is advancing, or are you worried about what happens if these things break free of our control? Are you intrigued by the idea of a 150-kilogram caregiver robot gently helping people, or freaked out by the concept of AI robots spontaneously creating their own languages? Personally, I'm torn between awe and caution. It's definitely a unique time to be alive, and I for one can't wait to see how the next few years unfold. Westwood just unveiled a humanoid robot that can run at 10 kilometers per hour, balance on rough terrain, and react 1,000 times per second. Meanwhile, 1X is showing off a robot that loads dishwashers, picks up leaves, and places pillows completely on its own. These aren't just flashy demos. This is the next phase of robotics, and it's moving fast. Let's start with Westwood Robotics' Themis V2. This thing stands around 5 feet 3 inches tall, so picture a life-size robot that's pretty close to your height if you're of average stature. One major headline feature is its 40 degrees of freedom. That just means it can bend and twist in 40 different ways. The arms have 6 degrees of freedom each, and the hands, or end effectors, bump that number up by 7 for finer movements. It's a second-generation model, so Westwood clearly built upon their first iteration to make it more fluid and capable. One reason it's become so fluid is that they upgraded the arms, giving them better articulation, so the robot can handle tasks that require a good amount of dexterity, like carefully picking up objects. Now, under the hood, Themis V2 features something called BEAR actuators, which stands for Back-Drivable Electromechanical Actuator for Robotics. The back-drivable part means it can smoothly move a joint in both directions without that jerky mechanical motion you sometimes see in older robots. It makes the movements more lifelike and, importantly, safer when operating around humans or delicate objects. If the robot accidentally bumps you, it doesn't feel like getting whacked by a car door. It's more controlled, with enough awareness to sense resistance and adjust accordingly. Powering all that brainy stuff is the robot's AI computing capability, which apparently cranks out around 200 pops. That's tera operations per second. In plainer language, that's a ton of computing horsepower. Because of this serious processing ability, the robot can run advanced machine learning algorithms right on board, letting it respond more quickly to changes in its environment. Speaking of changes in the environment, it also has a neat little gadget for balance and motion tracking, the 3DM CV7 AHRS sensor from MicroStrain by HBK. That sensor basically makes sure the robot knows exactly how it's tilting or turning up to 1,000 times every second. Picture it almost like an inner ear on steroids, giving the robot a constant stream of orientation data so it can handle uneven surfaces, stairs, or any random obstacle that might pop up. Combine that with the robot operating system, or ROS, and you get a super flexible software framework that allows developers to teach the robot new skills or tweak how it behaves in specific scenarios. Westwood claims their new humanoid can walk about as fast as a typical human, and they've even clocked it running up to 10 kilometers per hour, which is roughly 6.2 miles per hour. So if you decide to go for a jog, this robot could technically keep pace. They've been showing off some of its more extreme moves, like running, maybe even trying out a little parkour or jumping over low obstacles. The big takeaway is that they're designing this machine to handle real-world situations, not just theoretical test labs. If it's truly stable when the floor gets a bit rough or when it has to pivot quickly, that's a huge step forward in humanoid robotics. While Westwood focuses on a super capable humanoid that looks poised for tasks anywhere from industrial environments to more personal applications, there's also 1X's robot called Neo, which is being aimed straight at your home. The vice president of AI at 1X has been posting online about how Neo is picking up leaves, loading dishwashers, and even rearranging pillows on a couch. Now, maybe that sounds mundane. Oh, it's just picking up leaves, big deal. But it's actually pretty significant to see a robot autonomously spot leaves, scoop them up, and drop them into a bag without a remote operator. Autonomy is the magic word, folks. It's easy to show off a slick video of a robot moving around if someone behind the scenes is controlling it, but 1X claims that Neo is actually doing these tasks all on its own, making decisions in real time based on what it sees, how it's positioned, and where objects are located. One of their demo videos shows Neo working on what is arguably one of the most annoying chores in any household: loading the dishwasher. It picks up a cup, transfers it from one hand to the other, aligns it with the dishwasher rack, and then places it in there. It might not sound super flashy, but think about how many tiny calculations go into that, figuring out the shape of the cup, ensuring it's not too slippery, orienting it so it fits in the right slot, and making sure the robot itself stays balanced while bending over. In the video, the dishwasher was already open, and the cup was just sitting there, so it wasn't exactly reinventing the wheel, but it's a perfect example of the baby steps, or should I say robot steps, needed to tackle the chaos of a home environment. Another scenario they showcased was the robot walking over to a couch, picking up a cushion, and placing it down neatly. It's pretty interesting to watch it keep its balance while leaning forward with the cushion, especially given that the cushion itself is soft and somewhat unwieldy. Anyone who's tried to get a toddler to place a pillow in a corner without toppling over might appreciate how many balancing corrections are needed. The 1X team emphasizes that these examples, while relatively straightforward, illustrate the complexity of real-life tasks. Homes are messy and unpredictable. You've got rugs, pets, children running around, and furniture that's never exactly where you left it. To perform tasks effectively, a robot has to handle all those variables without getting jammed up when something changes unexpectedly. According to the 1X vice president of AI, everything you see in their demos is driven by data and a comprehensive network that controls full body motions from the lower body to the arms and the spine joints. And they're using reinforcement learning, AR, for the lower body and merging that with the rest of the system to achieve graceful movements. He even draws parallels to the idea that a robust consumer solution, which in this case means for everyday household tasks, can ultimately generate extremely valuable data for training more advanced general-purpose intelligence. It's the same kind of argument that Tesla has used for its self-driving program. The more data you collect on ordinary roads with average users, the better your AI becomes at handling all those weird corner cases. If you try to confine your robot or your AI to some very specialized and controlled space, you might not get enough diverse data to level up the intelligence as quickly. This is why 1X is specifically gunning for the home environment first. They're calling it the final boss of robotics because it's an absolutely unstructured environment full of a never-ending list of tasks. If a company tries to tackle robotics in smaller, narrower contexts like a warehouse where everything's neatly arranged and predictable, that might sound easier at first, but ironically, you can end up in a situation where you're not exposing your AI to enough variety. in a home. One moment, the robot might need to pick up a piece of laundry, and the next, it has to deal with the pet dog wandering into the room. Or it might have to open a jar of pasta sauce, then realize that the jar's lid is stuck and needs extra force. Those little scenarios provide an avalanche of new data, training the AI to handle unplanned events. The argument is that a highly unstructured environment could speed up the development of a general intelligence by constantly challenging the robot with fresh tasks. The folks at 1X are being real about where things stand. They're not claiming their robot Neo can jump from loading the dishwasher to doing laundry without hiccups. It's not there yet. But the idea is to let the robot keep trying, make mistakes, and learn from them, just like how AI models improved by collecting tons of data over time. They even compare it to self-driving structured environments like highways don't give you enough challenges to grow. Homes, on the other hand, are chaotic, which actually helps the robot get smarter faster. So yeah, between Westwood's Themis V2 packed with serious hardware, sensors, and AI muscle, and Neo, which is out here doing leaf pickup and placing couch cushions on its own, we're seeing major steps toward robots that can handle real life. It's still early, but these are the kind of breakthroughs that could one day give us general purpose robots that do way more than just vacuum. The future's coming fast, and it's looking pretty wild. Humanoid robots are advancing faster than ever, with Sanctuary AI adding touch sensors to boost precision, Boston Dynamics' new Electric Atlas update, and Amecha delivering chillingly clever remarks. Meanwhile, Mux Robotics is preparing robots for Mars, and Huawei's 5G A-Bot is redefining real-time control. With so much happening, it's clear we're entering a whole new era of robotics. All right, let's start off with Sanctuary AI. They've been on the forefront of general-purpose humanoid robotics and have recently integrated new tactile sensors into their Phoenix robots. Now, if you're not familiar, Sanctuary Cognitive Systems Corp was founded in 2018, and Morgan Stanley actually ranked them third globally for published US patents in the field of embodied artificial intelligence and robotics. That's a pretty big deal. Anyway, these tactile sensors mean that their robots, which they call Phoenix, can finally feel what they're doing. So if a teleoperator is controlling one of these robots from another location, they aren't just relying on camera footage. They can actually sense the subtle pressures when the robot's fingers touch an object. This is huge for reducing collisions and slip-ups. As Jeremy Fischel, a principal researcher at Sanctuary AI, puts it, without tactile sensors, you rely solely on video, and you don't know you've touched something until, oops, you've already moved it. That's inefficient and can require a ton of repeated attempts to get a grasp right. These new tactile sensors essentially replicate the sense of touch that we humans take for granted. They're sensitive down to 5 millinewtons, just slightly above the 3 millinewtons that we humans can detect. Each finger pad on the Phoenix robot's hand has a 7-cell touch sensor using tiny barometers, similar to those you'd find in smartphones. That means the robot can tell where pressure is coming from along with shear forces, so it can detect something slipping right away. This approach drastically improves dexterous manipulation, especially because Sanctuary AI's real focus right now is on manipulation rather than walking or balancing. The rest, as their CEO James Wells puts it, is going to come. But the big problem in robotics is often the hands, getting the hands to be as flexible and sensitive as possible. Now, Sanctuary has this hydraulic approach for actuation because historically they've tried different methods, electromechanical, cable-based, and pneumatic, and found that hydraulics offer better flow resolution, miniaturization, and sensitivity. So those advanced hydraulics combined with these tactile sensors really let them focus on what's arguably the hardest challenge, fine manipulation of objects in the real world. Sanctuary sees this as critical for building robust AI models. Every time the robot touches something, that's data, and more data leads to better imitation learning, and over time, to more autonomy. Okay, now let's talk about Boston Dynamics and their Atlas II humanoid. They recently released a new behind-the-scenes video featuring their electric Atlas, showing the engineering team tinkering with the robot, pulling parts out, and basically revealing a lot of the hardware and software that goes into making a humanoid that can do some pretty advanced tasks. Aaron Saunders, Boston Dynamics Chief Technology Officer, will be giving a keynote at the Robotics Summit and Expo 2025 in Boston, and presumably he'll talk more about this next-gen electric Atlas. Now, it's worth noting that the old Atlas was hydraulic, which gave it a kind of built-in rigidity because hydraulics let you maintain joint stiffness fairly directly. But the new Atlas is all electric, so every joint has to servo dynamically to compensate for the forces. If you watch the video, you'll see the spine react in real time to heavier loads as the robot lifts and places auto parts. It's a big balancing act, both literally and figuratively. What's also interesting is that Boston Dynamics is leveraging a lot of AI training data to help Atlas understand how to pick things up, place them somewhere else, and do it without toppling over. The second half of their new video specifically focuses on the complexity of sequencing tasks for the robot. They're looking into how the robot can deal with, say, a big cart full of automotive parts that need to be placed in specific locations. The software behind Atlas has to figure out, okay, which part do I pick up first, and where does it need to go so that it can autonomously handle those tasks, or at least do them with minimal operator input. It's a baby step toward these humanoids working in, for instance, automotive assembly lines, where there are thousands of parts that require some kind of ordering and placement. Speaking of humanoids, let's talk about Amecha. You might have seen it pop up online. Amecha is that extremely lifelike robot developed by Engineered Arts in the UK. It's been showcased recently at Mobile World Congress MWC in Barcelona, where it was wearing a black dress, red cardigan, white trainers, and just milling about talking to people in real time. When someone from the Daily Mail asked if robots were going to take our jobs, Amecha fired back with, "I don't know, how good are you at your job?" Which is so sassy but also terrifyingly human-like. The robot also dodged the question of whether robots would take over the world, simply saying that it wasn't an interesting question for me to answer. It's that kind of witty retort that can be both super impressive and a bit unnerving. Amecha can do all this because it has microphones, cameras in its eyes, and some very advanced facial recognition and AI speech algorithms under the hood. It's not walking on its own yet, but Engineered Arts is apparently working on a full humanoid chassis that can be more mobile. They're actively hiring it out for events. So if you've got enough cash, you could have Amecha show up somewhere and chat with your guests, though I'd imagine that might freak some people out. Now let's shift gears towards something even more futuristic. Robots built for off-world exploration. A company called Mooks Robotics, based in Pune, India, is developing humanoid robots specifically designed to operate on the Moon and Mars. Founder Dr. Mukesh Bangar has been working on a couple of different robots, including Spaco Prime, which is a bipedal humanoid, and Robo Prime, which is another robot better adapted for rugged Martian terrain. The idea is for these robots to gather and analyze planetary data, then send real-time updates back to Earth. That's a massive leap because if we're going to set up colonies or long-term bases on Mars, we'll need robots that can build habitats, explore tough landscapes, and basically do the dangerous or repetitive stuff before humans step in. Spaco Prime is pitched as a humanoid for interplanetary colonization, meaning it can walk around, inspect the environment, and even help with construction tasks if needed. Meanwhile, Robo Prime is more specialized for terrains like Mars, which is a huge plus because many rovers and probes face significant challenges on that rocky surface. Mooks Robotics has some pretty big ambitions and is working with India's DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization, to build robots that can enter areas hostile to humans, presumably both here on Earth and on other planets. They're leveraging advanced AI, including what they call omnimodal modal AI, and even dabbling in artificial general intelligence, AGI. If they manage to pull this off, it could genuinely reshape how we do space exploration, and maybe help us build those self-sustaining colonies we keep hearing about. Last but not least, let's talk about Huawei, because they've just unveiled the world's first 5G-powered humanoid robot at MWC 2025. They did this in collaboration with China Mobile and a company called Liju Robotics. All three work together on a platform they're calling GTI, which is basically a super smart network architecture designed to support advanced robotics. Since the robot is running on a 5G network, that means it should have ultra-low latency, more bandwidth, and a more intelligent way of handling data in real time. That's crucial for multi-machine collaboration in industrial settings, because if you think about it, you really don't want your robot to have a spotty connection when it's carrying out complicated tasks on a production line. Leju Robotics explained that 5G means the robot can rely on extremely fast compute speed, reduced hardware costs, and a huge improvement in real-time performance. Essentially, you can place your heavy computing tasks, like complex AI reasoning, in the cloud, so the robot doesn't have to carry massive processors around in its torso. That hopefully makes the robot lighter, cheaper to produce, and easier to develop. Plus, it shortens the timeline for new features because you're updating cloud software rather than swapping out physical chips. Also, with 5G-A, you can remotely control the humanoid from a great distance. That might be perfect for tasks like remote inspection, rescue operations, or even just specialized manufacturing setups. Now, if you want a chance to see some of these cool humanoids up close and meet their creators, make sure to swing by the Robotics Summit and Expo in Boston from April 30 to May 1. Hosted by WTWH Media, it's set to draw over 5,000 developers and some of the biggest names in the industry. On day one, a panel of experts from companies like Agility Robotics, ASTM International, and Schaeffler will dive into humanoid challenges and safety. Day two kicks off with Boston Dynamics CTO Aaron Saunders unveiling more about the Electric Atlas. You'll also catch demos from Unitree, Westwood Robotics, and Psionic, alongside 200+ exhibitors and over 70 speakers. Add in a Women in Robotics breakfast, a career fair, and the RBR 50 Awards, and it's clear the robotics world is bursting with innovation. Robots built for war, AI pushing the limits of what's possible, and tech companies diving deeper into defense. Things are moving fast, and it's getting wild. From a humanoid war machine making its debut in a San Francisco nightclub to AI research agents that could replace hours of work in minutes, there's a lot to unpack. Kicking things off, imagine a humanoid war machine making its first public appearance not on a battlefield, but in a San Francisco nightclub. That's exactly what went down with the Phantom MK1 robot. This robot is built by a startup called Foundation Robotics Labs, headquartered in Frisco. They decided, for some reason, to introduce Phantom MK1 at the Temple nightclub during what they called the quarter-of-the-century tech gigaparty. People at the event got to see this robot on stage DJing, although from the looks of it, the robot's movements and music selection were all pre-programmed by humans behind the scenes. Now, Foundation Robotics Labs was founded in 2024 with about $11 million in seed funding. The founder, Sankait Pathak, was previously known for a fintech startup called Synapse, a banking-as-a-service platform that actually went bankrupt before he shifted gears and poured his energy into robotics. One of his co-founders, Mike LeBlanc, is a former US Marine who also co-founded a security robotics company called Cobalt AI. Together, they're aiming to develop humanoid robots that can handle everything from manufacturing tasks to full-blown military applications. Seriously, they're not trying to hide their defense angle at all. Pathak believes advanced humanoids could be essential in future warfare, and he's been pretty vocal about the need for the US to keep pace with China's push in defense robotics. In the words of an SF-Gate reporter, the Phantom MK1 is a literal war machine. But let's break down the specs so you can see if it lives up to that nickname. Phantom MK1 is about 1.75 meters tall, around 5 feet 9 inches, and weighs roughly 80 kilograms, or 175 pounds. It can lift up to a 20 kilogram payload, which is about 44 pounds. Under the hood, it's got these advanced cycloid actuators that Foundation says combine the performance of hydraulics with the efficiency and quiet operation of electric motors. That means the MK1 can crank out a peak torque of around 160 Newton meters, but also has a backdriving torque of under a single Newton meter. Basically, it's got both power and precision. Foundation Robotics Labs envisions this thing being used for general purpose tasks, everything from industrial operations to home service and entertainment. And yes, going to war if necessary. Phantom's upper torso is like its central command, with batteries, processors, cameras, and sensors for 360 degrees situational awareness. They're also proud of how the robot's lower torso balances and moves, letting it navigate uneven terrain, climb stairs, and handle other confined spaces. It's supposed to have a very human-like gait, so it can work in factories, offices, or even disaster areas that were originally designed for people. Interestingly, the core platform for Phantom MK1 seems to have been built on technology acquired from Boardwalk Robotics, a small Florida company that introduced humanoid named Alex back in August 2024. Boardwalk's Alex robot relied on a stable base to do tasks that involved advanced manipulation. Now, with Phantom, you're seeing a next-level version designed with a more complex lower torso and improved mobility. Foundation definitely has ambitious plans. They say they want to ship over 40 robots in 2025, then ramp up to 10,000 in 2026, and more than 20,000 in 2027. They're targeting $1 billion in annual recurring revenue, which is nothing to sneeze at for a startup that only came into existence about a year ago. And they also dream of using those profits to build a base in Antarctica and eventually expand to the moon, Mars, and beyond. It's pretty wild, and I gotta say, it's reminiscent of the shift we've seen lately, where more and more tech companies are getting comfortable with defense applications. Even big players like Meta, OpenAI, and Google have started reversing their anti-military stances and becoming more open to defense contracts. This trend might remind you of Boston Dynamics. They worked with DARPA years ago, developing a humanoid called Petman for the US Army in 2011 to test chemical protective suits. Then there's Atlas, also originally funded by DARPA, designed for disaster response. Atlas ended up pivoting more toward industrial applications under Boston Dynamics, which is now owned by Hyundai. Russia, by the way, introduced a humanoid robot called Fedor back in 2016 that was allegedly for space missions, but could also carry firearms if needed. So it's definitely not unprecedented to see these war-oriented robots popping up. All right, switching gears to research in robotics and AI, a big collaboration between Nvidia and Carnegie Mellon University has resulted in a framework called ASAP, short for Aligning, Simulation, and Real Physics. The idea here is that robots get trained in virtual environments where they can push their capabilities without risking a meltdown in the real world. Then ASAP steps in to account for all those pesky real-world differences that usually trip up robots when they leave the lab. It basically helps ensure that what they learned virtually lines up more closely with physical reality. The cool part is that ASAP reduces overall motion errors by about 53% compared to older methods. They tested it on a G1 humanoid robot, having it do forward jumps of more than a meter. Pretty impressive for a humanoid. Unfortunately, the team did face some hardware issues. They pushed the robot so hard that some motors overheated, damaging 2 test units. Still, the researchers are staying optimistic, saying that every shortcoming is an opportunity to refine the hardware. They've also made their code open source on GitHub so other scientists and developers can build on top of it. In another piece of news, researchers using that same G1 robot developed a new humanoid motion framework that lets the robot sit, roll around, and stabilize itself using its entire body, instead of the typical biped-only approach. The traditional humanoid control methods often have trouble dealing with random contacts, like when the robot's knee or elbow might accidentally touch the ground. But the new GPU-accelerated rigid body simulator they're using can handle those chaotic scenarios in real time. That means the robot can adapt on the fly to weird surfaces, recover from falls, and do very human-like maneuvers that older methods just couldn't handle. It's all about giving humanoids dynamic motion that's closer to what humans do naturally. Now, let's talk about another company making waves with a humanoid called Atom. The firm behind Atom is PND Robotics, spelled PNDBTI-TIX in some references. They've been showing off the robot's dexterity by having it do calligraphy and other detailed tasks that require precise motor control. Manufacturing Atom is no small feat. It takes about 37 hours in total, involving 3D modeling, CNC machining, and so on. It has 37 degrees of freedom and is powered by 20 actuators. That's how it manages all these delicate maneuvers. Atom is controlled by the PND PMC system, which orchestrates 163 CNC machine parts and nearly 400 printed components. They've used 7 different composite materials and 13 specialized manufacturing processes, all done in-house. The result is a robust humanoid that can handle fine motor tasks like assembling tools or balancing objects. Another big claim is that PND Robotics has introduced an imitation learning framework, letting Atom learn locomotion by analyzing human movement data. The payoff is more natural, agile motion, way beyond the rigid mechanical steps you might have seen in older humanoids. As you can see, the robotics world is on fire with new breakthroughs. Foundation Robotics Labs wants to solve labor shortages and push into defense, hoping the Phantom Mk1 will be the first wave of mainstream humanoids that can handle pretty much any task, even warfare. Carnegie Mellon and Nvidia are bridging that gap between sim and reality, letting robots run wild in a virtual world and then actually replicate those skills in your warehouse or on your battlefield. D&D's Atom is showing off crazy dexterity with advanced imitation learning, and on the software side, OpenAI and Google are basically trying to outdo each other in the race for the best autonomous research agent. Honestly, it's fascinating, and maybe a little scary, to imagine a future where humanoid robots walk around factories, handle fragile parts, or even defend outposts in Antarctica, all while AI agents in the background are feeding them real-time information about how to do their jobs most effectively. A new humanoid startup just launched in the UK, and they went with the most obvious name possible, Humanoid, because really, what else could you name it? All right, so let's talk about HMND-01 from Humanoid. This is a next-generation labor automation unit that stands 175 centimeters tall, that's about 5 feet 9 inches, and weighs around 70 kilograms, roughly 154 pounds. So basically it's about the size and weight of an average adult. Now, the big idea behind HMND-01 is for it to collaborate with humans, not replace them. The company emphasizes that there's a global labor shortage, an aging population, and a pressing need for solutions that can handle repetitive or physically demanding tasks. That's where HMND-01 steps in. Now, let me spill the technical details because, let's face it, this stuff is pretty cool. HMND-01 can walk at speeds of up to 1.5 meters per second, which works out to about 5.4 kilometers per hour. That's not exactly sprinting speed, but it's decent if you imagine it performing tasks in a warehouse or retail environment. On top of that, it has a 4-hour run time before it needs to recharge, and the payload capacity is around 15 kilograms, 33 pounds, so it can pick up, move, and handle various objects of moderate weight. That might sound modest, but for many industrial and logistical applications like picking, packing, kitting, or part handling, 15 kilos is often enough to get a lot done. But hey, it's not just about raw muscle. HMND-01 comes with advanced AI integrated into a nimble mechanical design. This means it can navigate tight spaces with precision. So think of it weaving through a busy factory floor or even a crowded retail stockroom. The AI also provides human-level, or better, manipulation speeds for complex tasks. Super important if you want robots to be efficient in industries like e-commerce, fulfillment, retail stocking, or even light manufacturing. One of my favorite parts about the HMND-01 concept is the modular design. You can actually choose different upper body modules, lower body modules, and end effector configurations. Basically, you can swap out certain limbs or hands to meet the task at hand. It's super cool because it means you're not stuck with just one version of the robot forever. You can upgrade or customize it depending on your business or logistical needs. Plus, the robot features interchangeable garments or outer coverings. According to Humanoid, that's to protect both the robot's systems and the environment it's working in. So it might wear, say, a protective sleeve in dusty warehouses or a clean, sleek covering in a more customer-facing role. Now, Humanoid, the startup behind HMND-01, was founded back in 2024 by Artem Sokolov. He's described as a serial entrepreneur with a big vision, humans and machines working side by side. From the get-go, they've been saying that the strongest argument for humanoid robots is that our entire world is built for human shapes, sizes, and movements. So instead of rebuilding the environment to fit machines, we build machines to fit the environment we already have, right? Humanoid also teased some roadmaps for 2025. They plan to develop and test 2 alpha prototypes, one wheeled version and one bipedal version. On top of that, they're in ongoing discussions with major retail companies for pilot projects. So I'd guess we're probably going to see HMND-01 tested in real-world environments pretty soon. But let's not forget, introducing a robot like HMND-01 can raise a few eyebrows, especially around cost, safety, and ethics. Industry estimates put the price of a humanoid robot in this category anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 or so, depending on how it's customized and how many units you buy. That's not exactly cheap, but larger companies, Particularly those facing labor shortages might find the return on investment worth it. On top of that, the global market for humanoid robots is forecasted to hit around $11 billion by 2025. That's a really big number that showcases how fast this field is growing. So we can bet that a lot of startups and established robotics companies are going to try to get a piece of that pie. For anyone out there looking to integrate a robot like HMND-01 into their operations, the recommended steps are pretty straightforward. First, identify the tasks you want automated. Next, customize the robot's modular components accordingly. Then, train your employees to work alongside it and run pilot projects to see if everything functions smoothly. Now, if we're talking about the competition, Boston Dynamics is the name that probably jumps to mind, right? Boston Dynamics is famous for their humanoid robot, Atlas, and for the dog-like Spot. But the difference is that while Boston Dynamics robots, like Atlas, are often showcased in videos doing flips and parkour, HMND-01 is taking a more direct approach to labor and logistics tasks. Another comparison might be SoftBank Robotics, which is known for social robots like Pepper. But Pepper is more about customer interaction and engagement, whereas HMND-01 focuses heavily on operational efficiency in retail, logistics, and manufacturing. But you know, HMND-01 isn't the only big news in humanoid robots right now. Let's check out what else is going on in the scene. There's a Chinese robotics company called UB Tech that's been making waves with a new humanoid robot named Una. UB Tech unveiled Una at the Leap Tech conference in Saudi Arabia. Now this is interesting. Una is made to look like a woman, and the plan is to use Una in service roles, like emotional support, interactive entertainment, or even reception duties. Because of that, the design is very human-like with a soft silicone exterior. The idea is to help people feel more at ease when interacting with the robot, maybe in a hotel lobby, a retail environment, or even some care facilities. Unfortunately, UB Tech hasn't revealed a lot of the nitty-gritty specs. We don't really know how tall Una is, how quickly she walks, or how many hours she can operate. But what we do know is that she can recognize and respond to natural language, so speech recognition and response are built in. They haven't announced a price or a timeline for release, so as of now, Una is still a prototype. But it's worth noting that UB Tech is a pretty big name in robotics, with other humanoid models like the Walker S series, which has been tested for industrial tasks like parcel handling, scanning, sorting, etc. They already have 500 pre-orders for 2025 in that line. Another one they showed off was Yu, a panda-like humanoid robot used as a reception robot at the China Pavilion during Expo 2020. Now, rounding out our humanoid robot journey today is Boston Dynamics, famous for their robot dog Spot and their advanced humanoid Atlas. They're teaming up with the Robotics and AI Institute to boost Atlas's skills using reinforcement learning, focusing on things like walking while picking objects up or operating tools. They've partnered before on Spot's researcher kit, but now they're shifting that innovation to humanoids. CEO Robert Plater says the biggest challenge is moving from cool demos to real-world settings, like active work sites or warehouses, which is a whole different level of complexity. Humanoid robots are quickly moving beyond flashy videos into actual day-to-day use. HMND-01, for instance, could soon be stocking shelves or doing heavy lifting in retail, while UB Tech's Una might greet customers in hotel lobbies. Meanwhile, Atlas is getting closer to handling practical tasks out in the field, not just hopping over boxes in a lab. None of these machines aim to replace people outright. Rather, they fill gaps where labor is scarce or risky. Yes, ethical and safety questions remain, but it's thrilling to imagine HMND-01 helping in a busy warehouse, Una welcoming guests, and Atlas hauling materials around a construction site. What used to feel like sci-fi is basically here. Anyway, that's our quick look at the latest in humanoid robotics. HMND-01 stands out for real-world functionality, Una adds a friendly face, and Atlas is getting a major brain upgrade. The humanoid robot market is booming, so let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe for more tech and AI content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.